Okay, hello and welcome to another episode of Hiring and Inspiring. Today's guest is Brent Paul. Brent is he's a guest I've been trying to get on and hoping to lock in for a little while. He's a guy who I'm really keen to have a chat to because he's a little bit different in terms of his background, what he does for his work. But it's one I'm really interested in, and I think a lot of people will be interested too and take a lot from. Brent works for the Fire and Rescue Department Victoria as a firefighter, has done for 5 or 6 years now. And his work as a firefighter is something that I know he's really passionate about and takes a lot of pride in, and he really loves his job. So I'm really looking forward to chatting to someone today a little bit different in terms of what they've done, but equally, someone who's really passionate about what they do. So on top of that, Brent is an old friend and one of my dearest friends these days in Melbourne. So I'm really looking forward to the chat. Mate, with that introduction, welcome to the show. How are you getting on?
Hey, Joey, thanks for having me, mate. I'm pretty excited to be on my number one favourite pod.
Good man.
Yeah, great to be here, and thanks for having me along.
Great stuff, mate. So, look, I really wanted to actually start in the present. In terms of your work, the recent news is you've moved from you transferred from working in the suburbs of Melbourne, the outer suburbs, to working in the city, right in the CBD. Actually, my local ends, the South Melbourne department. So
Yeah.
you're based very close to where I live, but right in the heart of the city. So I'm keen to understand firstly, mate, how's that change gone, and what are the sort of differences that you found from working in the suburbs to working your job, right in the heart of the city, right in the action, so to speak?
Yeah, you're right, Joey. Yeah, so it's been about 3 months now, and I've been really enjoying it. It's been a really nice change. I think that was one of the things I was looking for. It was just a little bit of a change, something different, and a new challenge. And yeah, I've been loving it. Probably the biggest difference initially was just I've gone from working with 4 on a shift every day to 15, and so it's a much bigger dynamic, as you can imagine, a much bigger team, and yeah, consequently a lot more appliances or trucks at the station. And South Melbourne's one of, if not the busiest station in Victoria, so the call volume's been dramatically higher as well. Yeah, so it's really vibrant. There's lots of people, there's lots of jobs, there's trucks going in and out all the time, which just means it just keeps you on your toes, I think, and you feel like you're amongst the action all the time, which I've been really enjoying. In terms of the job itself, it's much the same. I mean, a fire station is a fire station, so to speak. There's certain things that just happen at every fire station around the world, I reckon, that still happen, and it's a great place to work. But yeah, the jobs and the complexities that come along with them are a little bit different. So out perhaps in the suburbs or out even into the country, you don't have the same density of people, but what you do have is big grasslands or forests. So your risks are those grass fires and bushfires, and what we call horizontal fire spread. So the movement of fire across it. Whereas somewhere like South Melbourne, there's lots of high rises and mid rises, so we've got that potential for vertical fire spread. Not that thankfully we've had any, in the couple of months I've been there, big high-rise fires, but that's the potential and that's the risks we're working with, along with things like trams or underground train loops in the city that again pose different hazards and risks. And then on top of that, as I said before, just the density of people. I mean, if we had, say, a car crash out in the suburbs, we wouldn't hesitate about shutting a road down for an hour or whatever it takes. But to shut down Flinders Street, as you know, or City Road in South Melbourne for an hour, the flow on is just astronomical. So yeah, it's the same job. It just poses different challenges, and just a new exciting opportunity for me.
Those challenges then, you mentioned you were looking for a new challenge. You were excited by that. early days still, but how do you feel you've sort of risen to the challenge?
Yeah, good question. I'm enjoying it. As with everything, there's some apprehension early days, and I think mostly that probably comes around the social lay of things too. Like you get comfortable in the people that you're working with, and because in the fire brigade we're always doing everything as a team, you know your teammates like the back of your hand. You know them so well. You know their strengths and their weaknesses, and they know yours. Excuse me. And that was probably the biggest adaptation, I guess, from knowing those other three guys that I worked with for the last couple of years that I know so well, to then 15 new co-workers that I don't know at all, and then going to emergencies and not knowing much about how they work, and then not knowing much about how I work. So that's probably the biggest challenge. And I guess, in terms of rising to it, I think it's just tackling it head on, like most challenges. It's just getting in there and from the word go, just being as open as you can and as transparent, and just getting in there and giving it a try. And undoubtedly, I've made a few mistakes in the last couple of months, but that's not to worry. I've definitely learned from them, and we'll crack on.
Absolutely, mate. So, mate, just taking a little step back then. So, if someone's listening to this and they don't necessarily, including myself, really, in terms of the actual your day-to-day tasks and what you actually do. Obviously, there's the kind of the stereotypes of pulling people out of burning buildings and taking cats out of trees and stuff. That's what kind of people think a firefighter does, but I'm sure it's totally different. And I do appreciate there may not be a typical day or a typical shift, but if there was, what would be, say, the sort of things you do, the activities you get up to on a shift?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, so you're right in saying that there's not necessarily a typical shift, which is one of the things that I really enjoy about it. From one moment you can go, you're doing absolutely nothing or something really medial, to potentially the biggest incident that you've ever been to in the space of 30 seconds. So it's very dynamic like that. But things that would happen on a typical day is every shift we start off by checking our gear. So we'll go out to the trucks and check over the trucks, the pump on the truck, all the equipment, grab out a few of the things that they've either used the shift before or that we haven't touched in a while, and just check over it, give it a bit of maintenance, potentially even do a small little drill with it. So that's the start of every shift. Some other things that we'll get up to, and some less glamorous things, we'll do some duties every shift. So it might just be cleaning the showers or the toilets around the station, or giving the trucks a clean, mopping floors. One thing that's big in the fire brigade is food, which I'm all about. So we do lots of cook-ups. Most shifts there'll be a cook-up of food. So with 15 people, you can imagine there's some big eaters amongst them as well. There's some big cook-ups that happen. So that sort of gets fitted into the day as well.
Yeah.
And then, at some point you'll get an opportunity for some personal fitness as well. So either using the gym there, or getting out and doing a little group session together, or whatever that might be.
But that all could change in an instant, right? So you could be doing that gym session, or you could be having a bit of food, cooking it up, whatever, and then suddenly a call comes in, and boom, you're in action. You're suddenly being called out. Is that how it works?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So despite whatever time of the day it is, so 9 o'clock in the morning, 2:30 in the middle of the night, we've got a 90-second response time. So we have to be driving on the road to the incident within 90 seconds. Yeah. So you've just got to be prepared at any point to drop what you're doing and go.
And that could be anything from like a car crash or even a fire in a building. What would be, if there is it like a normal incident?
Or any of those. So again, depending on where you're working as to what your most common incidents you go to. Again, being in South Melbourne, there's lots of building alarms that go off. Car accidents for sure. We're going to more and more medical calls as well these days. So lots of them thrown in there as well. And then anything from cats in trees to gas leaks to bin fights or whatever it might be, house fires, as you say, rescues, all the weird and wonderful jobs in between.
I appreciate you might not be able to go into all the details on this, but what's like, say, the biggest incident you've ever been called to, or like the most crazy thing that's kind of stuck in your mind? It's like, whoa, that was like mad. Like,
Probably a couple. I think sort of a bushfire that I went to when I was working out Western Suburbs, and got pushed out to, was probably the biggest fire itself. And in terms of managing an incident, there was over 100 trucks there, helicopters, police and ambulance, SCS, everyone was there. So in terms of an incident, that was probably the biggest that comes to mind. And then in terms of wonderful and wacky things that I thought I'd never be doing would be, again, out west, I was responding into prisons out there, okay. For little fires or medical emergencies within prisons. So some of the things that we went into there and the environments that you went into were way outside way outside of what I thought I'd ever be doing. So there's a few stories from in there that sort of stick to mind.
Is there anything you do like before a shift, say, that to get you in the right mindset for doing that kind of work? Because it's sort of you have to be prepared for anything almost.
I don't know. And I think one of the challenges early on in your career is actually switching off from that mindset.
Right.
If you're on shift, you're almost constantly on edge early. But as you get into it, it's actually better not to be in that mindset, because otherwise you're constantly on edge. You're tired, you're fatiguing, you're jumpy, you're edgy. It's better just to be, when you're not at a call, to be completely switched off. And then when those tones go off and you go to emergency, then you need to be able to flick a switch and it's time to go.
Yeah. And because you've been doing it for many years now, are you kind of, it's very normal for you? Like if I was suddenly just put in there and I had to go to a fire, I'd be like, what? I wouldn't have a clue what I'm doing. I'll be freaking out.
Yeah.
But because you've done it for so long, it's almost normal for you.
That's exactly right. Yeah. I mean, if it was possible, I'd love to have you jump the truck one time and go to a fire together.
I don't think anyone wants that, mate. The people of Melbourne don't want that.
Protect your own suburb, mate. No, you're absolutely right though, and that just comes with experience. Don't get me wrong. The first time, we do about 5 months of training at recruits before you start on station. And my first shift on station, I was as absolutely nervous as anything. And the first job I go to, the first fire, I was like a deer in the headlights. But everybody's like that, you put all this work and all this training into being the best you possibly can be. But it's not until game day that you actually get to test those skills. And, no different to playing sport. You put in a big preseason, then it finally comes to round one and you're nervous as anything. You're just itching to get out there and ready to get into it. So it's a bit the same in early days of your career. You just, you put all this energy and thought into what could happen, what would happen. And so when the time comes, you're really nervous. But just with experience and time, you get used to that and used to managing your emotions. And you get confidence in yourself as well as your skills build and your experience builds. You just get more and more used to it.
What were you saying actually nervous about? Is it like you didn't want to sort of let yourself down? You didn't want to let the team down? But is it also like you have that responsibility to the, civilians that you're going out to and serving? Is it a bit of all three? Yeah.
All of it. Yeah, for sure. You want to do your best. You don't want to, it's not every day, as you say, that we're going into a burning building or into a house fire or a structure fire or out to a bushfire or whatever. So you put a lot of time and effort into training for things that don't happen every day. So when you do get the opportunity, you want to put your best foot forward, just from a personal level. You're also working with a team, so you want to do the best for them. And, the way you do your job can also potentially impact the safety of someone else on the fire ground or in an incident. So in terms of safety for everyone, that's obviously non-negotiable. You want to be, or you need to be, at your best to keeping them safe. And then, your duty and your desire to help the people that you're responding to. Quite often we're going to one of, if not the worst days of someone's life. If someone's house is burning down, it's an absolute tragedy for them. Or if they've been involved in a severe car accident, or if we're going out to a medical emergency for them or a family member, it's just about one of the worst days of their lives. So, it's up to us to try and help if we can. Can't always, but you want to be doing your best for them as well.
Yeah, got you, mate. So you touched on your early days just now when you first started. That was what, 5-6 years ago?
Yeah, it's been 6 years now. Yeah,
6 years. Yeah. So how's your career, so to speak, like progressed? Have you sort of gone through the ranks? I know you have a little bit. But how does it sort of work for someone who wouldn't understand how the sort of structure of the organisation works?
Yeah, I have a little bit. So just to give a really, really quick brief overview. So we've got firefighters, which are my level. The next rank up from me would be a leading firefighter, and then we'll go to station officer and senior station officers. So senior station officers and station officers control incidents. So they're not necessarily holding a hose or cutting people out of cars. Excuse me. They're controlling incidents, the strategies, tactics that you're implementing. They're liaising with police and ambulance and all the other resources. They're calling on more appliances, more trucks. Sorry, we call trucks appliances. If I said that a couple of times. So they're managing it. And then the leading firefighter, they're kind of the middle ground, middle management, for want of a better word, between the fireys and the officers, and just keeping an eye on everyone, ensuring they're safe, and a bit of that practical leadership on the fire ground. And then the firefighters just below them, who are the muscle. So I'm essentially just a firefighter still. So I've progressed a little bit up into where I have been. But yeah, in about 2 weeks' time, I've got a promotional course for my leading firefighters.
Nice.
To progress into that, which I'm really looking forward to. In terms of what I've been doing the last sort of few years, 5-6 years, it's just gaining skills and experience, really. Yeah. And it's, just gaining more time doing the role, more time developing yourself. And then as I sort of progress into that leading, it's also taking on a development of others' role. So when new fireys come out, then it'll be my responsibility to train them up and to see their skills through as well.
That's something you're excited about?
Yeah, I'm buzzing, mate. Yeah, really looking forward to it. Yeah. And with my background as well, a little bit in teaching, it's it's something that I'm looking forward to putting those skills back into practice a little bit as well.
Yeah, class. Mate, I think you once said to me, you know that this is the job that you're going to be, most likely, never say never, but never, can't always be the easiest thing to predict, but this is most likely the career and job you're going to do for the rest of your life. How did you sort of get to that point where you like, or what was there a moment where you sort of, because obviously you took a bit of a career change, you got into this line of work. Was there a moment when you were just like, yes, this is, when did you know that this was sort of going to be your life and your career for the next period of time? And sort of what was it initially about getting into the fire department that sort of attracted you to doing the job?
Yeah, good question. I think the initial attraction was a couple of things. I wanted to, I always wanted to do something where I help people. And this is helping people, as I said before, often in their worst situations. So I felt that would be something that I could really take enjoyment out of, and a great deal of satisfaction out of helping people when they're in really difficult situations. And then also a combination of the physical and mental challenge of it.
Yeah.
It's sort of, something that not a lot of jobs have in common. It's both a mental challenge and at times physical as well. And that excited me as well and sort of drew me into the job. As you said, like you never say always. I don't know if I'll always be doing this, but for sure it's something I love and I can see myself doing for a long time if that's the way life takes me. When was the time I knew? I don't know if there was a moment, to be honest. It's probably developed. It was sort of even since I was maybe 17, 18, it was kind of in the back of my mind that, fires would be something that I think I'd enjoy at some point. And then the more and more I looked into it a little bit later on, the more I thought, this would be really good. And then, as I was accepted, and went through the whole the whole process of all the training, I just think I probably only developed more of a passion for it. I was during the recruit course, I was still living at home, and my sisters and mum and dad always say they've still never seen me work as hard as when I was on the recruit course, even through BCE or the later years of school or university or whatever. And I think it was just because I had that passion for it.
Yeah,
it was something I loved to be doing and enjoyed doing. So I think it's just developed over time, and we'll see what happens. But more than happy to be in the role for a good amount of time now.
Because something we've spoken about before, you said to me in the past, like, it doesn't actually feel like work.
Yeah.
You never dread going to going to a shift, or when you've got a day's work coming up, which I think is you obviously something that if you're in that position, you're very lucky, right? So, and it's something that's quite common with people who tend to be successful in their roles, for one, whatever it is, whatever industry, whatever type of role. But also it just your overall sort of happiness. Like if your work doesn't feel like work, so to speak, because we spend so much of our lives at work. I always think you may as well, you owe it to yourself to do a job you enjoy. And it seems like you've really found, like, landed on your feet on that front.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, mate. And it makes outside of work so much more enjoyable as well, because you're not thinking about what you have to do in a couple of days or going back to work and dreading it tomorrow. I'm just very grateful. That's all I can say. Yeah.
Mate, you talked about when you were studying and doing that, work for when you first got into it. What does say, because I'm sure you don't just take anyone on for the fire department. What does it actually look like, the sort of process of becoming a firefighter, the application, the training, and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so it's been condensed a little bit now in terms of the applications, but when I went through, it took about 12 months. And so initially you just put your expression of interest and a resume and the like online, and then you're accepted to do a beep test and an aptitude test, so a written aptitude test. So if you pass the beep and the written aptitude test...
What's the pass on the beep test?
The beep is 9.6. Yeah, so you'd walk it in, mate.
Didn't want to say anything.
Yes, you did, but I knew on the back.
Yeah, okay.
When I was going through, I thought they were just going to, so 9.6 was the minimum, and then I thought they'd continue and you'd sort of get a rank. So I was training flat out, running loads, and I was...
so you just have to get to 9.6 and it stops?
Yeah, and that's it. Yeah, either pass or you fail.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was training and I was, crushing it. I'm like,
What do you reckon you would have got?
Oh, mate, I was in practice. I was doing mid-14s. I was going, I'm going pretty well here.
Big, yeah.
Might push myself to a late 14 during the day or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, that's great. For you, that might be, again, still walking, but...
No, I'll do well I'll do well to get that, I think.
But yeah, so 9.6. Then the written test was mechanical reasoning, mathematical reasoning, English reasoning, and problem solving. So that was a written test there to go through. And then there was a group interview. There was also a PAT test after that, which is a physical aptitude test.
Yeah.
So that was a bit of I guess you'd call it an obstacle course of a few of the things you might do in the job. So you put all the gear on, the breathing apparatus on your back, so a bit weighted down. And then you'll do things like a dummy drag, you'll do a tunnel crawl, up and down a ladder, you'll haul 20 kilos over a 2-story building, put some couplings on a coupling board, a few of those sort of things in the physical aptitude test. Pull a hose, hold a hose. After that one was then it was a final interview, which is just a panel of 4 people and you in a panel interview. Before that was a psych test as well.
Yeah.
And then the panel interview, a medical test, and then you're in.
Yeah. Yeah, mate. Sounds pretty extensive. There's different things you need there in terms of the physical and the mental and the aptitude stuff. I was thinking about, obviously you've done well in the job. You've been successful. I imagine you've seen a lot of people that have been successful and people that maybe haven't. What do you think? This is maybe for someone who's listening and they're going, oh shit, yeah, I'd love to do that. I'd love to do what Brent does. I'd love to be a firefighter. What and they haven't got the experience, but got the ambition to do it. What sort of maybe character traits do you think that someone would need to be successful as a firefighter? Based on what you've seen in yourself and what you've seen on other people that have been successful in the role.
Yeah, sure. Look, it's going to sound a little bit classic, stereotypical, but teamwork.
Yeah.
I mean, everything we do is with other people.
Yeah.
Even if it's just your truck and it's just the four of you, everything you do at an incident is going to be together, and everything that you do is going to have a flow-on effect to them. So you're constantly working with them or with other people, both on the fireground and back at station. I talked about food. We're doing cook-ups. There's always 4, 5, 6, 7 people cooking at station. You're doing the duties together. There's nothing when you're at work that is just you. So if there's one trait that I'd say you need to have is you need to be able to work well with other people.
Yeah.
Maybe the first one, and probably the second one would just be problem solving.
Okay.
And that's one that for sure you can get better with. But just the ability to go, righto, this isn't working. What else can we try? I've got these skills. I've practiced, cutting the side out of a car, but now there's a tree in the way on one side and the car's impacted on the other. We can't get to either side. What can we do?
Yeah.
Okay, let's step back. Our first plan didn't work. What's our second, third, fourth? Let's just work through this and see what else we can try. So yeah, that'd probably be the two that I'd say is just the ability to work with others and as part of a team, and then problem solving. Yeah.
The ability to kind of like think quickly on your feet by the sound of things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And that, I know it ties back into teamwork as well.
Yeah.
But it might be knowing your team and knowing that someone else might have a better experience. You might have someone who used to be a mechanic in your team, and I'll go, oh, hey mate, like I was a teacher before. Can you just talk to me about this car? What's the setup of X, Y, Z on it? And then he might have a different set of eyes, or she might have a different set of eyes.
But what actually makes a good team player, do you think, from your experience? Because it's quite easy. Anyone can say, I'm a team player. But it's actually doing it. What, is there examples? Because I always think a team player is someone who's quite selfless. They'll put other people's interest ahead of theirs often. Is that the kind of thing?
Yeah. No, I reckon you nailed it there. Yeah. Putting other people's interest before theirs. But that can also be taking a step forward yourself. You might also know that you've got a strength in that area. And stepping forward and going, I'm gonna assert myself in this situation. Okay. So I think one of the real characteristics as well is knowing when to step forward and knowing when to step back for the sake of others, as you say, putting others first. Yeah. But knowing when to step forward, when to step back, and as well as when some conflict does come up, 2 people might be stepping forward at once, or 4 people might be as well. Just knowing how to deal with that, and getting a real or a resolution that's effective for everyone there. Yeah.
Have you seen that play out firsthand? People who aren't necessarily good team players not work out. Maybe someone who's a bit of a lone wolf. They think they know it all. They always think their way is the best way of doing things. Have you seen that?
Absolutely. Yeah. And because we're doing things, I keep going back to it, we're always doing things together at station. You can see that play out at station before you see it at a job.
Yeah.
And this is where I think hopefully as a team you can resolve that and you can manage that. But sometimes it's up to the officer or the manager as well to then manage that situation effectively too. So, one person might be saying, righto, this is best for the team. But if you've got a lone wolf that's then doing something different, it can throw the whole team out. And so, ideally resolving those issues on station and getting to work together on station is going to be then, training's the wrong word, but it's going to be beneficial going forward to the fire ground and to emergencies, because you're then going to be able to use those same skills and that the teamwork that you've built up on the fire ground.
Mm. You mentioned about the managers and at the station. Have you seen, I guess, people step into that leadership role that maybe aren't necessarily suited for it? Or maybe a better question is, are there some people that sort of come into the department and never look to sort of progress through the ranks? They're set at being a firefighter, and they know that's their role. They don't necessarily want to be that leader. Is it something that, yeah, I know you've talked about you wanting to progress into that leadership role down the track. Is it for everyone, do you think, or is it a case of it's sort of case by case?
Yeah, absolutely, case by case.
Yeah.
And there's people that know that from early in their career as well, and just go or just say, righto, this is me. They might say, go to leading firefighter and say, okay, this is going to be me for the rest of my career. You know, they might look for opportunities off station or a bit of variety in different ways, but they don't see themselves progressing into the officer role. What was the first half of that question again?
I can't remember.
Okay.
I was waffling on, I think, with that question to it.
But yeah, it's definitely not for everyone.
Yeah.
And it is a big jump. I sort of relate it to being a tradie. It's the jump off the tools into running your own business. You're not going to be holding the hose so much anymore, and you're not going to be in there attacking the fire so much anymore. You're taking the step back and you're managing and controlling the incident. So it is a big change for people.
How important have like those managers, leaders been to you in your career? Because I'm guessing any role, any industry, the role of a mentor is always so important. I'm guessing there may be some mentors on the way that have had an impact on your career so far.
Yeah, huge. And yeah, massive in me developing in my career, and massive probably in me developing as a person as well. I was only 24 when I got in, which is definitely on the younger side of fireys when they get into the fire brigade. And so you are impressionable, and you're going to instances and emergencies and seeing things that you've never seen in your life before. And some people may never ever see in their life. And this might be slightly off track, but it's definitely one of the challenges, I think, of the role that isn't always seen, is that is the emotional fatigue it can put on people, and the mental fatigue and it's big for other emergency services as well, for police and paramedics, is you're constantly going to the worst parts of people's lives. And so your day-to-day normal, inverted commas, is the rubbish or the crap of people's lives. And so that can definitely wear you down, and you're going to fatalities, and you're going to car crashes and seeing horrendous things, and you're going to medical emergencies and dealing with the bystanders or the family of the wife who's just passed away, or of the son or daughter, or whoever it might be. So you're constantly in these rubbish situations in people's lives. And so, yeah, those managers and those officers in my career have been massive for my role in the job, but massive for me as a person as well, handling those things and learning to build coping mechanisms around those things and ensuring it doesn't then flow on to life outside of the job. Because I don't want to go home and then be grumpy or miserable or down in the dumps because of something that's happened at work.
Yeah.
So yeah, they've been huge. And in terms of the great leaders that I've had in my career, it's probably the ones that I look at and go, yeah, you were great at your job, but you're actually great at developing me as a person. Yeah, and that's something I'd really admire, and I probably aspire to when I do rise through the ranks as well, is actually developing people.
And is that one of the main things, those coping mechanisms you say with the challenges of the job, like switching off from when you finish your shift, hang up the boots, get in the car, and go back to your normal life? Is that one of the main challenges with the role? Because that is something I just think is crazy. You might be doing your job, going to a fatal incident, and then you finish your shift and you got to go to your mum's birthday or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's something that's a challenge and easy in ways. So it's a challenge in that in your head you're going to take that with you. So you need those coping mechanisms to make sure you unwind from it. But it's easy in the fact that there is nothing that I can possibly do when I'm outside my shift that is work related. Unlike yourself, I assume that there's always something you could be doing to be rolling on with your job. You might be in the evening or on the weekend thinking, I could do this or I could be doing that just to get my health ready for the week or ahead of the week. Whereas there's nothing I could possibly be doing at home to get me ready for work. So in that aspect, it's really good. But yes, I do need those coping mechanisms in place so that mentally I don't carry what I've been to throughout the week or at work.
So you're really very much on, off in terms of
very much so. Work. Yeah. What about yourself? Do you find yourself on off from work, or do you?
That's it. Like I'm always on. I feel like not always on, but that's something I struggle with. I'm sort of, I think it's like it's a blessing and a curse because I care about my work and I'm really, I'm really into obvious. It. I love it, but the problem is I might be at a social gathering or doing something, but I'm not as present as I would like to be because I'm thinking about the next whatever, thinking about a deal or an interview that I've got coming up, for whatever. And I don't know. It's good because it means I work hard and have hopefully achieve some success. I think it's helped with that, but it's something I'm working on. Let's just say it's a constant.
Do you have little strategies that you pull to get yourself out of that headspace? Like if you are going to say a dinner or a drinks or whatever it might be, do you have anything that you do to try and pull yourself out of the?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like it's obviously a mental thing, right? And for me to control my mind, I use my. It sounds a bit weird, but I use my body to control my mind. Yeah. So for me, exercise is huge.
Massive.
So say I've got a day at work, and then I know in that evening I've got, let's just say, a dinner with some friends that I haven't seen in a while. I really want to catch up, and I know I want to be present and not thinking about work. I'll try and squeeze in a little gym session in between work, and that dinner, say, and that allows me to just that little intermission, finish up the session. I might be sort of thinking about work. I might be stressing about work, whatever, and then I'll go to the gym, do however long hour session. I'll come out of that and work with them be behind me. It's not perfect. It's not like I'm not saying I'll always carry that through.
Yeah.
But that's just something I try and implement if I know I've got something that's where I know there's that sort of crossover, so to speak.
Yeah. Oh, it's a good way to do it and a healthy way to do it. That's for sure.
Yeah. Oh, mate, very, very interesting. Something I was hoping to chat with yourself about is sort of the career transition you made. So this is maybe time before your firefighting career. You actually, so some background into Brent. He was previously a school teacher, has a background in education, studied education. It was something he kind of, I hope you don't mind me saying this, that was the ambition from a younger age, and it didn't necessarily play out the way he was expecting. And then at the age of sort of 24, made the change of the career into the into the fire department, like we've spoken about. How do you sort of reflect on that career change? Obviously, it was a massive positive change for you, but is it just something that you look back on like it was something you had to do to learn, it wasn't for you, and then you've now found your sort of route?
Yeah, I don't know if it was something I had to do. It was just where I landed, I guess, at the time.
Yeah.
I guess looking back, it was, I developed some great skills during that time, but I wasn't actually teaching for very long. By the time I did 4 years of uni, I was only out of university for 3 years before I ended up in the fire brigade and full-time for one of those, and then some shorter term contracts and the like before that. So I wasn't doing it for a huge amount of time. How to reflect on it? Yeah, as I said, some great skills from it. It's always a fallback. I know that, having a teaching degree it's universal, and wherever I end up in the future, I've got that to fall back on, which is a great security to have. But yeah, as you touched on, like I don't by any means regret the decision to change at all. A lot of people go to me, geez, 4 years, that's a lot of university to not even use your job. But, I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change it now. I'm wrapped with where I am. It was for sure a bit of a risk at the time after putting all that effort into the study and just starting out, getting my first job and putting the extra effort into, hopefully doing well at my first job. It was a risk, but if I didn't take that risk, I would have forever just looked back and gone, what if? So it was absolutely one that, I'm wrapped that I took, and it's worked out really well.
How did you know it wasn't right?
Look, this is a bit of a hindsight. But I never put the same amount of effort in to my study to be a teacher as I did for the fire brigade.
Yeah.
So, at the time, I didn't know that. Like, I was young. It was my first career. But looking back, I can see I never had the same sort of passion that I did for what I'm doing now. And I probably didn't have the same peace for what I was doing as well.
Yeah.
Like, now I'm just like, yep, I'm really love what I'm doing. This is where I'm meant to be at the moment. And I probably didn't have that back when I was teaching either.
Yeah. This is something I think about a lot, right? Someone's passion. So you identified you didn't have the passion for teaching by the sound of things.
Yeah.
So do you feel like because people always say, oh, do what you're passionate about. Follow your passion.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you sort of followed your passion, or did you find your passion? Because I feel like you might have found it, because you didn't know you were passionate about the fire department, doing the job, until you did it, right? Because I think if someone said to me, you should follow your passion, like my passion as a kid was, so this is more for someone who's maybe a bit lost, right? They don't know what they want to do with their life. If like someone said to me, follow your passion, for me, like my passion was football. I love football.
I was about to say, mine would have been sport too.
Yeah. Typical English bloke. If I'd followed my passion and tried to become a professional footballer, I'd be broke and unemployed. And not a bad player, but I wouldn't have made it. Like, so.
You would have been pretty good. You would have been a pretty good back in Manchester United's clubs.
Wouldn't be getting paid for it, mate. So, but for me, like I feel like I didn't know I was passionate about working in sales and recruitment until I sort of found it. So I kind of had to stumble into it. And I think if someone doesn't, this is my advice for someone who maybe doesn't know what they want to do. If you say they're in their 20s, I think 20s is a good time. Just try a bunch of stuff, and if you find something, then you kind of follow it. Do you think you did that, or did you always have a sort of passion for
no, I think you're absolutely right, mate. And that's probably a quote I'm going to print out and put on my wall now. Yeah.
Nice.
Don't follow your passion, find your passion.
Yes.
Touch that before I go to sleep each night. That's quality. No, I like that a lot. And I'm very much the same. Yeah. And it's great advice as well. Just try things. And if it was, if I was having my time again, I'm not saying I'll change things, but it was the risk in my life of changing from what I put so much time and effort into getting to try something new that allowed me to find that passion. Yeah. If I hadn't taken that risk, I'd still be wondering what if. And so if I'd then gone into the fire brigade and I'd still, I was like, oh, okay, I'm not enjoying this so much, then I feel like I would have needed to take that risk again to try something else and hopefully end up finding what that passion was. I'm very grateful that I found it relatively young. But it wasn't until I took that leap out of what I was doing and to be able to then understand or find what I was passionate about.
Because it must have been pretty scary, like just quit your job, throw away, so to speak. Not throw away, but put what you've been doing for all those years just behind you, and I'm just going to try something else at 24 years old.
Yeah, it was massive. Yeah.
Yeah.
But even at the time, I think I had an understanding that if I didn't do it and if I didn't leave what I was doing, then I'd just roll on and it wouldn't be super fulfilling. I'd just be doing it for the sake of doing it. And I'd just be teaching because I did university and that's where I ended up. So even at the time, although it was a risk and although it was a massive change and everyone was looking at me, raising their eyebrows going, what do you mean you just got your first full-time job and you're just getting your teeth stuck into what you've worked so hard for, I still had an understanding and a bit of a piece of myself that, no, I need to go and try something else.
You knew it was right. You owed it to yourself.
Yeah.
Mate, we've talked about the present, what you've been doing, talked about the past, your background. What about the future, mate? What does the future hold for Brent Paul in the next few years? What can I expect from you?
Work-wise or?
Oh, whatever, mate.
Personally?
Yeah, work and personally.
Yeah, work-wise, we touched on. I think one day I'll find myself as an officer. I'd like to pursue that. But at the moment, my effort is being towards getting this leadings, hopefully promotion in a few weeks. And that'll open up a few doors as well, being able to do different things off station. And one thing that I'd like to do, and this might bring some of my former skills back into it as well, is go and instruct on a recruit course. I think I'd really enjoy that teaching component, ironically, of instructing on a recruit course. So I'd like to do that at some point. And then, I don't have a huge plan. I'll just sort of see what comes from there. As I said, my focus has been getting to this leadings first, and then I'll assess my options and see how I'm feeling from there. And I know I won't be. If I get too comfortable, I get a little bit bored. So I'll be looking for different opportunities as they come.
Sure, yeah.
As they come up, and I know, instructing will be one of them. At some point, officers will probably be one of them if I'm still in this job in Melbourne. But yeah, I'm open to some new things from there.
Yeah. And personally, mate, I know. Well, I was going to ask you about you've got a big trip to Europe coming up.
I do, mate. Yeah. And I'm going with a good friend, Joe Cutler.
Yeah, I know.
A little bit of it.
I'll be part of it, baby.
I wondered actually if you intentionally got me on the podcast before we went overseas, so I couldn't talk about any of the antics that you got up to when we were over in Spain and Portugal, Joey.
I plan to be very well behaved.
I have no doubt, mate. You will be. No, I'm looking forward to that, mate.
Excited for those travels, mate? Excited for those?
Absolutely buzzing. Yeah, I love to travel. That's something I think I'll be doing my whole life. I'll be going and explore new places and new countries. So, yeah, looking forward to about 5 weeks over in Europe soon.
Unreal.
Which will be great. And then, see what else comes of it.
Mate, and I've got to ask you, as a big cricket fan, the fifth test starts tomorrow, I believe.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the series?
I think the best thing that happened this whole series was the rain coming down in the fourth test. So that the English couldn't square it up at 2 holes.
Very painful.
Closely followed by Johnny Bairstow getting run out by Alex Carey. It's just been an ashes to remember. Looking forward to it. Mate. It'll be a big fight. And I think there'll be some tired cricketers out there too in the fifth. So hopefully the Aussies go up 3-1 and we take home the victory. Hey,
I think I don't know. It's a shame it's not a tool with a decider to go. To be honest, with a decider to play for. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I feel it's been a great series, but I don't. It's just sport, isn't it? Like I feel like England, we deserve to be level, but we're not. So it's just sport, isn't it? Like
I think it was the risk you take when you go down 2-0 is England. I feel has been just as good as the Aussies, but they let those first two slip, and that's the risk you take. Is the weather can get the better of it, or anything can happen.
Especially in England. Mate, I've got one final question for you. It's my typical closing question. You can take this whichever way you like, but the idea of success to Brent Paul, what does that mean? What does success in your life mean to you?
Yeah, it's one I've been reflecting on a little bit. It's not often something I think about. And the nature of success sort of leads me to think of an endpoint, which I don't often do. I don't often think about where am I absolutely trying to end up. It's about doing the best that I can to achieve a certain goal and then to move on to the next, or open a new opportunity, or to get involved in something else in my life. I don't often reflect on it, but I think success in the process is where I guess I'll take my answer to this question. And for me, in my life overall, like success in the process is just making sure I'm aligned with God. and it's it's something about my life is that I try to keep my faith central to it, um, and I try to ensure that what I'm doing aligns with him, and that outplays in, I guess, the love that I show for other people. So even if I'm not, say, going where I want to be in my career, or I'm not being able to travel, I'm not doing other things. I just want to be showing the love to others that he has shown to me. So a little bit different from me, maybe to others, but that's success to me.
It's sort of, with all the things we've talked about, the work and what you're doing, and that, kind of how that love you show for others, the way you treat other people, that's more important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think the reason I guess I'm passionate about helping other people, and hopefully that shows in outside of my work as well as my work, is because I want to emulate those values and that love.
Mate, what an answer. Love it. Mic drop. Right, Brent Paul, thank you very much for coming on the show, running through what you do. It's like I said at the start, it's a little bit different, but it's to me, I'm sure some other people will find that super, super interesting. Learning all about your day job, and also a bit more about you. I certainly learned a few new things. So I really appreciate your efforts, and you're doing some great stuff like that. Appreciate you coming on, as I appreciate you as a mate as well. So,
I've had a blast, Joey. Thanks for having me on.
Love it. Take it easy, mate.
Cheers, mate.
And with